Hello everyone, welcome to TBR's webinar, IoT, the customer journey through the vendor landscape. I'm Justin Surgent and I'll be hosting today's session. IT vendors are approaching the growing customer interest in the Internet of Things in a multitude of ways. In this webinar, TBR will discuss our views of the three most common vendor approaches and how those approaches intersect with vendor business models and go-to-market strategies, as well as how they meet customers' needs. Customers, meanwhile, are searching to make sense of and find vendors for IoT solutions. TBR will discuss the top use cases in the marketplace and examples of how those use cases apply to customer pain points. We will also conclude with an outlook on how the market will evolve over the next 5 years as both customers and vendors mature in their understanding and utilization of IoT. If you'd like to learn more about TBR's IoT research, please reach out to myself or one of the analysts after the webinar, and we can provide more information. Now, before we begin, there are a few items I'd like to cover. First, we'll be recording today's session and posting it on our YouTube site, TBRI channel. Please feel free to visit our channels to view this webinar or any of the previous webinars we've posted. Second, we welcome questions on the material we're presenting today. Please send them to the Q&A function, and we will address as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And finally, I'll be following up with all of you with the recording link as well as the slides from today's presentation within one business day. So next Monday afternoon, please be on the lookout for that in your email. Now let me introduce the analyst presenting today. Ezra Gottheil is a principal analyst in TBR's computing practice, leading team coverage on HP hardware, Dell hardware, Lenovo, and Apple. He's also a principal researcher on projects including IoT, consumer and business tablets, device monetization, PC warranties, PC supply chains, mobile device strategies, app stores, and social networking. Now with that, let me hand this over to Ezra.
Thank you, Justin. Today we're going to be talking about the interaction between vendors and customers in IoT. And good morning and good afternoon to everyone. As we all know, IoT is accelerating. This has been a very big year for increased interest on the part of customers and increased activity on the part of vendors and potential vendors. Things are changing rapidly, and what we're looking at right now is a snapshot of a period in which we're passing through a transition point. So things are going to change as going forward quite a bit. We've used the metaphor before of climate change, and here I want to emphasize that there's a long backstory to the IoT story. If you think about point-of-sale devices in retail, you realize that there have been things that aren't computers connected to the ends of computer applications and networks for a very long time, and the data has been utilized for a very long time. But at the same time, things are changing and they're accelerating, and that's real. And what that's created is a good deal of uncertainty about how to go forward with all the opportunities for improvement in business and all the opportunities for participation on the part of the vendors. So if you look at the context of the IoT world, you can look at two different tracks. One is evolutionary and incremental. IoT can be used to reduce inventories and reduce costs and accelerate throughput in various processes. It can be used to instrument and analyze data that are already being recorded and tabulated. It also can be revolutionary and transformative. It can allow businesses to move into whole new segments. It can allow resale and integration and repurposing of data. It can allow businesses to leapfrog into new business models like things that previously were delivered as a product being delivered as a service. Now this corresponds, but not 100%, to a division of the world of IoT customers between mature and new. Mature being the customers that have been doing IoT for quite a while, for whom most projects at this point are evolutionary and incremental, and new companies, many of whom are also looking for an evolutionary incremental solution, but some of whom are looking for real business transformation. If you look at the distribution of companies by vertical, and which tend to be more mature and less mature on the maturity curve, you'll see that oil, gas, and energy is one of the verticals where there's a long history of using instrumentation and gathering the data and consolidating the data. These include well production and pipeline throughput, and in the case of energy, output from things like wind turbines. Manufacturing has instrumented the assembly line, instrumented heavy equipment, and those data have been gathered for quite a while, although there's ongoing further leveraging of the potential of those data. And finally, given the point of sale example, retail is mature, but on the other hand, there's also work on new IoT solutions that involve different kinds of devices in the retail environment. At the other end of the spectrum, we see verticals like transportation, healthcare, agricultural, and public government and things like that, where in many cases the data is being there's data passing through the systems, but they're not being collected and fully leveraged, so that they are kind of new to the world of IoT. The context here is that IoT solutions are mostly familiar IT solutions. If you look at our magic decoder ring of pieces of the IoT puzzle, you'll see that only the IoT hardware itself, the IoT network, and the things surrounding that network are new to IT. Everything else is something that's quite familiar to IT. So when you look at an IoT solution, most of it is going to be familiar. Most of it's going to be an IT solution. And at the end point, the IoT solution will almost always be integrated into pure IT solutions, integrated with them as far as to form kind of corporate IT infrastructure. When you look at the situation from the point of view of vendors, you see that most vendors in the IT space do, in fact, have IoT experience. But it's largely from the IT end of the implementation, not from the device end of the implementation. And their experience is typically organized around their various products and services, their various business units. It's kind of compartmentalized. And in terms of communication to the outside world, and often in terms of internal strategy, IoT is implicit. It's not an explicit piece of their business. It's not something they communicate to the world or strategize around. For customers, the implications are somewhat similar. If the customer has had IoT experience, then going forward and developing new IoT solutions is pretty straightforward. But on the other hand, vendors that have IoT experience, that if they look through their portfolio of past projects, they realize a considerable number of them have been, in fact, IoT solutions, really don't have the tools to go forward and promote themselves effectively as an IoT solutions provider. What's happening right now is those IoT vendors are developing the skills that let them say, let us help you, the customer, fully leverage the potential in your business, fully leverage the information in your business to drive it forward. They are developing the skills to not only build IoT solutions, but to sell them and help their customers develop them. If we look at the things, the parts of the IoT solution that makes it an IoT solution instead of just an IT solution, we discover that business-oriented technology, mechanical technology, physical technology, is actually older than IT. That's manufacturing and transportation. We've had that technology forever, whereas IT is fairly young. We actually have a name for this and an understanding of what the grand class of these things are, and we call it operations technology, the technology that actually allows the business to operate. When compared with IT, it is far more diverse. It can include assembly lines. It can include oil rigs. It can include transportation devices. IT, on the other hand, includes the usual set of parts that we're familiar with. But these operations technology devices now are generating an awful lot of data, even if they're not integrated into an IoT solution. The various kinds of signals inside machinery, inside heavy equipment that used to be analog are now digital, and they're transmitted digitally. What separates those situations from IoT is that they have not been consolidated and analyzed using IT resources. The gateway, the device that Intel has promoted, that Dell and Cisco sell, the IoT gateway, is in fact a gateway between these two kinds of technology, between information technology and operations technology. Several of the vendors have told us, and we believe it to be true, that IoT is the intersection of IT and OT, and it has a nice little word play or letter play in there that's kind of cute. And IT vendors know that. If they've gone out and tried to do anything in the world of IoT, they've met OT. And one of the things they've discovered is that it's somewhat different. One person told us that whenever she goes out on an IoT sales call, she packs her jeans because she's going to be dealing with machinery. She's going to be dealing with the physical world. It's not all clean and data center and offices. Another thing about this is in fact, this simple diagram is not easy to do. There's a lot of things to be resolved to make these two worlds work together. There are technical differences, and then there are cultural or organizational differences. The tech differences come down to things like operating systems, protocols, and computing resources, and an interface is required in order to get the two to work together. And there are connection problems even once you've got basic connectivity taken care of. Security is really important. An OT system that's passing data in and amongst itself is not vulnerable to the outside world because it's not connected to the outside world. If you do an IoT solution, it is, and you have to provide security. That's a really important piece. The kind of management inside operations technology is quite different from that's required in a hybrid IT-OT system, an IoT system. And the management in a proper IoT system would be a single management location, not dual as now exists. And you have to provide networking that completes the circuit, that brings the information from the operational aspect into the information technology aspect, and quite often back to the actual devices themselves. These are IT-type problems. So what we're looking at right now in the world of development inside IoT is applying the techniques that have been learned in IT rather, and applying them to OT. So this is where the development is. It's taking devices that often exist, sensors that are often in place, and placing them, giving them the necessary security, networking them appropriately, managing them well, and then once those data are gathered, applying conventional IT solutions of analysis and so on. When you look at the actual solutions, there's actually a third party at play in creating and maintaining an IoT solution, and that is business management. Business management is the driver for these solutions, and it's very, very important in these solutions, not just because business management drives everything, but because IoT offers potential for some significant gains. Even the incremental and evolutionary gains are ones that are pursued avidly by business management. There are choices about return on investment. There are choices about what's the best first IoT solution to go forward with. In part, this is driven by the fact that the addition of OT to IT has much broadened the palette in which these solutions can be painted. There are many more choices, and it's business management that has to drive the choices. And it's not simply driving the choices, choosing the solution, but the process has to carry all the way through the execution, implementation and execution of the IoT system, because it is an integrated system. So what we're looking at, in fact, in asking these companies to work together is not simply make the project, but keep the project working. And this is the main area in which companies that have a history of a maturity in IoT have an advantage. Even if they're engaging in a new IoT project, they've now developed the means of coordinating these disparate parts of their organization so they can work together to do it. When vendors go into a situation where this cooperation is necessary, they face a challenge because this isn't a standard IT problem. They have to help the customer coordinate its organization. And we call that business integration. So in addition to systems integration now, vendors who want to be IT vendors are faced with a challenge of business integration. Now, there is a practice that is familiar with that task, and that's business consulting. And some of the IT vendors are either primarily business consultants or have business consultant parts of their businesses. And they definitely have an advantage with the new new to the IoT world customers. This is an entry point for a lot of them. For other vendors, it's a matter of choosing what pieces, choosing what partners, choosing how to communicate, and making themselves available and known as a vendor in the IoT space. We produced a commentary earlier this week about Symantec that is developing specialized security facilities for the operations technology, and the ultimate goal is to provide these integrated with their IT security technology to provide end-to-end security. So there's an opportunity for a primarily IT vendor to go into operations technology without actually getting involved with the devices themselves. When we look at it in developing our market landscape, we look at IT vendors going into the IoT space according to three major business models. The first one is component-led, and by components I don't mean only physical components. This includes services and it includes software. But it says we're going to take the pieces of the IoT solution that we have, either a small number or a large number, and make that the key theme to our IoT story. And then there are the companies that are primarily business consulting, transformation services companies, and they say, we will understand your business well, we will help your business choose what kind of IoT solution you want to build, and then help you build it, probably with the help of partners, because we don't have all the components that we need. And then there are other hybrid companies, and IBM is the best example of this, that has both a strong business consulting component and also has a wide range of IT products and services. We look at vendor organizations. They have the pieces. They've used them to build IT solutions, but they are not integrated. They are present in business units. So what is required in order to fully leverage IoT is coordination. They have to coordinate their marketing, coordinate their sales, coordinate their project management, and perhaps most importantly, coordinate their revenue recognition so that you drive forward this business. You incent the members of your staff to go forward and drive the IoT business. If they're simply picking parts off, if the customer ends up simply picking parts off the shelf, you don't have a collaborative effort and you don't have an IoT story. Very simply, a customer that is interested in IoT needs an entry point into the organization, and that's not merely sales. It means being able to define the solution and coordinate them. When we looked at companies in the IT space, as far as how much they were committed to IoT as a thing, no pun intended, a thing unto itself, we went to LinkedIn and we did a count of the number of titles that had IoT or Internet of Things in them, or the number of occurrences of IoT or Internet of Things as a keyword That meant it was also in history, skills, description, et cetera. And the taller bar is those that had it in the keywords. The shorter bar is those that had it in the title. And IBM that is committed strategically to IoT, and has actually been in IoT long before it was called that, when it was called Smart Planet, Smart Cities, and so on, is the leader. And the smaller bar, if you can see it, is more than 350 people, more than 300 people with IoT in their title, and more than 1,800 with that in their description. Intel, that has made IoT a strategic effort to find a way to drive not only silicon but software and finally services and solutions, also is strongly represented, as is Cisco, where IoT has been a strategic thrust for the company for 3 years, and where it has marketed itself very effectively in the IoT space. Microsoft, that has been rather quiet about its IoT projects, actually has been allocated a good number of staff to the project, and they have been less quiet in recent months. And Samsung, another company that has spoken of it as being strategic, also has a substantial number, although a smaller number, that have it in the title. Huawei has it in the description quite often. They've been more focused on IoT more recently. And then the last four are Bosch, GE, to our surprise, had a relatively small number, Dell, and HP. We looked at how effective are the vendors' communications on this topic. We found an interesting thing, so that vendors who may well have a track record of working well in IoT, of having a large number of IoT projects, may not be effectively communicating that in the world, and in some cases are not. So we believe that these communications are incredibly important. Customers are looking around for vendors who will help them figure this out. IoT has become seen as both an opportunity in the sense of a way of driving the business forward, creating efficiencies and transformations, and it also is a threat in that if competition makes one of these transformations and you're not ready, you could be in real trouble. So here we made some estimates of the company's capabilities in terms of pieces of the IoT puzzle or experience in doing IoT projects, and then we looked at their mind share, how effectively they've communicated their engagement in IoT. And we've got companies that are strong and that have communicated it well, like IBM and Accenture. We've got companies like HP and Dell that have some real strengths in their capabilities, but have not been communicating that effectively. Dell certainly much better than HP with its Gateway project, but Dell brings a lot more to the table, has chosen to do a rather narrow focus on IoT. So in conclusion, I wanted to show a couple of slides from one of the publications we are creating as part of our new practice, our syndicated publications. The market landscape looks at the IoT world from 2 points of view, from that of customers and from that of vendors. And it does that kind of summary analysis I showed you on the earlier pages and a good deal more, but then it drills down to some pretty specific details about both customer stories and vendor offerings. So these are some customer stories. These are specific cases coming out of energy and oil and gas. Most of these involve GE, and they involve instrumenting drilling platforms and actually ongoing functioning wells, as well as pipelines to manage the supply of oil, gas, for several different customers. If you look at one of our vendor profiles, we look at Microsoft, and Microsoft has a major initiative about which it's only recently spoken a great deal, which is to use Azure, their hybrid cloud platform as the tool with which on which to hang IoT. And we believe this is a very effective approach. We think it's a smart way of picking a piece of the IoT puzzle that they don't have a lot of direct head-to-head competition, and it allows them to leverage a lot of the resources they have in place. Now, Microsoft is also increasingly developing their analytics capabilities, and clearly what they will do in IoT goes a good deal beyond Azure. But Azure is the big play at this point, and we think this is pretty creative. So that concludes the presentation, and now we're available for questions. I have with me John Spooner, the director of the practice, of which I am the principal analyst.
All right, so just a reminder, send any questions you have through the Q&A function, please. And we've got a couple questions here we'll start with. I understand cost takeout and customer experience happening now. Can you tell me more about what you see around the future applications of IoT?
Right, so when you're gathering and consolidating all this information, you can become more efficient, and that's the kind of incremental application of IoT. But you've also got the opportunity to integrate that data with data not only from elsewhere in your own organization, but with data that other organizations have. You can either gather and purchase or obtain other data and integrate it, or you can actually provide your data to other companies that are not directly competitive with you. So data repurposing and integration is a real way of expanding and going outside the actual business model that you're in. Another is that all these data allow you to deliver what you now deliver as products quite often as a service. You can have the thing where it needs to be when it needs to be on the basis of understanding the utilization of those things. So we see our vendors providing a lot of things as services. Now we see our customers wanting to provide their goods as services. So we see a gradual transformation of the overall global economy into increasingly an as-a-service economy.
All right, next question. Where you imply that a vendor needs an IoT division or group, what is the priority there? Is it primarily sales and marketing or creating solutions?
The capability of creating solutions is necessary, but it's important at this point to bring customers in the door. Most new customers entering this space really want to begin the conversation. And if you inventory your catalog of IoT solutions you've done to this point and use that as a point of engagement with a customer, and you have the expertise in your various component or pieces offerings, you can begin that discussion and form that relationship. And it's critical to do that because customers right now are looking for partners they can work with, even if the eventual project is still some time down the way. I think it is very important fairly soon thereafter to then begin to develop an organization that can do coordination and project management, that can help the customers solve their problems. Any other questions? What are the top 3 use cases and which vertical or industry do they apply to? I think I actually showed you there are use cases all over the map, but these are the ones that are best established. Oil, gas, and energy is the industry where IoT has been in place for an awful lot of time. It's used on production. It's used on exploration. HP itself has worked on projects for Shell where they implant sensors into oil fields to monitor seismic activity on a real-time basis. It's an area. It's an industry that has utilized information intensively for many, many years. So those are the leads because they're the most mature. Any other questions? Well, then I thank you very much, and if you have any further questions, please contact one of us. We'd love to carry on the conversation. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Ezra, for your time today. So I'd like to remind everyone you can follow Ezra and John and TBR here on social media, and here their emails are here to contact them as well. Additionally, before you sign off, I'd like to ask you to take a brief survey about today's webinar. We're always looking to improve both the information we share and how we share it with you. So we'll leave the chat function open for another minute or so. People ask last-minute questions. Otherwise, thanks for attending and have a great afternoon.